This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, summer is marching on, that's for sure. It's hard to believe that we are literally into August. So the 8th month of the year, you're starting to planning fall. And I know a lot of you are starting to think, so maybe I should think about holiday sales and how to move my books. And maybe I should be trying to pitch it so we're in the bookstores for the holidays. And the reality is you're a little late. Most bookstores, if that's where the venue is that you're thinking about selling your books to and with, have already pre-purchased long ago books that are going to be in the stores. October is one of the biggest sales months in retail for books, and then it leads into the holiday season. Independent bookstores are certainly open, but we're going to open up another window for you today. One of my favorite people is Brian Judd. He has written a lot of books on dealing with what we call specialty sales or that niche marketing. And Brian and I both come from the philosophy, as our friend Dan Pointer does, is that bookstores are often a lousy place to sell books. There are other ways that you can go do it. Brian's the author of How to Make Real Money Selling Books, which I am totally gung-ho for. He's also the partner in the Premium Book Company, which sells books on non-returnable commission basis to non-store buyers. And he's working on some other side things that actually will be returnable books, but that's a whole other topic we can jump into. He's a book marketing consultant. He hosts the TV series The Book Authority, and he's the editor of 4 monthly e-zines. He's also the executive director of the Association of Publishers for Special Sales. So that's what we're talking about today, special sales. How would you like to see your book in every military bookstore? Do you know there's a lot of them out there? And you know they actually buy lots of books and sell them? How would you like to have your book as a premium sale for a business that all of a sudden the CEO just loves it and everybody that works for his or her organization is going to get your book in hand? What about the academic market or the library market? Well, we're going to dive into all of those during this session, and we'll just start right now. Hi, Brian. Welcome back to AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
Hi, Judith. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to talking with you again.
Yeah, there we are. And also we want to make sure that everyone knows that Brian's going to do a special one-day program in September in Los Angeles. So we'll give you information on that before the show ends today. So let's really talk about specialty sales. How hot is it? How hot is it?
It's not as hot as it should be. It's just because for a couple of reasons. One, I think that it's a hot opportunity, but people are not taking advantage of it. Most publishers and new authors just think that the only or the best way to sell books is through bookstores or retailers. So they don't even look at the special sales marketplace, and that's where the opportunity lies, as you alluded to before. That you can sell the books in a variety of different ways and larger quantities. But it's once people get into it, then they realize how hot it really is and how you can sell books in large quantities in different ways and be much more profitable. So
well, Brian, I kind of I guess I chalk that all up to just plain old ignorance, and I'm just. Well, I'm direct and blunt, yes. Besides butt kicking and with my authors. But that the reality is that there's still a lot of people who walk around, I think, with their literary noses in the air. And they think that the only way to publish is with New York. And it's so, they're so out in the stratosphere in that attitude at this point. And that the only place you sell a book is through a bookstore, and a lot of people don't even recognize or somehow get their head around the fact that Amazon is a bookstore. It's just called an online bookstore.
Exactly right, yeah.
Besides you can buy your vitamins and all that other stuff there too. But there's just a variety of things that you can do. And I know that, I'm a living example that I would say of my book sales, and I've sold over 1 million copies of my collective books, have 2%, maybe max 5% would have been through retail operations. Everything else has been through what our topic is today, specialty type sales, that niche marketing and sales where you really kind of go to your crowd who's going to want you versus hoping people just find you, which is a big difference.
Well, it's an enormous difference, and most people do that. Well, that's the way I started out, Judith. I was in the corporate world and got laid off and started writing books about how to get a job. And I thought the only way you sell books is through bookstores. This is before Amazon, before the Internet. And I tried to sell through Barnes & Noble and Borders and a variety of other stores back then, and learned quickly about large distribution discounts, about return books, and I thought there's got to be a better way. And that's why I learned how to sell to non-bookstore markets, by finding these new opportunities of people who needed the job search information. That could have been colleges, high schools, the state governments. I even sold it to corporations. And those are I learned how to sell books more profitably, and sometimes a list price and all non-returnable. And it was, to me, it just made more sense.
So let's just kind of put it on the table, Brian. How do we define a special sale?
Most people will say non-bookstore marketing, but that's so hard to really get your arms around and try to approach. Mm-hmm. So what I do, I break it down into two areas. One is retail, and one is non-retail. And retail is much like selling through bookstores. These could be discount stores, airport stores, supermarkets, gift shops, and also include home shopping networks, display marketing companies, book clubs, catalogs. So these are part of that one area of retail. And it's the benefit of that is it's much like selling to bookstores, because you get a distributor and they sell, or they get the books into these retailers, but the books are returnable, and you have these 65, 70, sometimes 70% discounts for distribution. The other segment is really where people should focus more, and that's the non-retail area. These are sales to corporations, associations, schools, military, government buyers. And these can be in large quantities. These can be, in most cases, non-returnable. And they're much more profitable, because when you do print in large quantities, then your printing costs are certainly lower, so your sales are more profitable. So those are the two areas, Judith, of retail and non-retail, and those together compose the segment of specialty sales.
So then let's say, okay, you're going to convert me. I'm good. I mean, listen, you don't have to convert me, but we got to convert our listeners here. Okay, so all right, I'm ready to listen to a new way, a new word. Where in the heck is there kind of a methodology, a 1, 2, 3 step that you should start with? Because one of my fears, Brian, is so many people, when they start, marketing, as you know, can be overwhelming.
Oh, sure.
Listen, book publishing is overwhelming. Let's just put that.
You do right. It really is.
All right. So, but the marketing side is really where the true overwhelm can come into play. And if I'm going to decide I'm going to be a specialty sales type of author and go out there, what kind of steps should I start out with, the baby steps before I maybe make the giant leap like a frog would or something?
That's a great question. I think that some things that you can do that would apply to both. And one is to know your buyer. Who's the person who could use your information? And that could be a buyer, or it could be a reader, depending on where you're selling your book. So know what they're looking for. What I do is I create what I call a PAR statement. It's just 3 columns on a sheet of paper. It's problem, action, result. What problem does your user have, your potential buyer have? What action do you recommend in your book to solve that problem? And what is the result that they experience? And that's what you need to sell, but that results column. But you have to know your buyer first. And then I think that you have to think about selling content, not selling books, knowing the information in your book and how that's being used. So if you're contacting a corporate buyer, they don't care about selling your book or buying your book. They're using your content for something to help them solve a problem. We can talk more about that later. But the idea is that you have to understand that you're selling the information in your book. And then another point I think is really important is to recognize that form is a variable. You don't have to have just a printed book or even an e-book. You can do a variety of other formats. And again, you're selling from the buyer's perspective, so you have to know that buyer. It goes back to that one criterion, that knowing who your buyer is and what form they want, what the pricing is. As an example of that, I try to sell my job search books to colleges, to college students, and found out that college students don't like to read. So, and they're frugal, they're cheap. So, as I was in college. But I
don't know if they're cheap. They're broke. I think is a different way to do. Right. Although they do kiss up a lot of money, Brian. I mean, there's stuff unbelievable, Brian. Yeah, there's a different priority rank when you know when you're in the 18 to the 22 range.
Oh, sure. Well, that's a great point, because if you know that about your buyer, then you can take their content out of your books, as I did, and put them in booklets. So there's a booklet on resumes, on cover letters, and interviewing. Yeah. So colleges bought these booklets and gave them to the students.
Yeah. You know what I would be doing for the college market and the young market? I think I would use cheat sheets all over the place, because they are so used to getting to the core really fast on stuff that would be the hook, that kind of a hook. Because a cheat sheet, by definition, means we are saving time on things. And actually, that's a whole thing, Brian. I think that for our listeners, that if they're writing for the business community, I would be using cheat sheets too, because they're looking for that. Yeah, we're going to be right back. Take a quick break. This is AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. With me is Brian Judd, and we're talking about how you can move masses of your books to a specific market in a short period of time. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Many of us have dreamed of writing a book.
Some of us even have.
Then the hard work starts.
You'll need an editor.
Who will design the cover or typeset the pages?
Who will format the ebook?
If you're a business owner, consultant, or coach with a serious message and expertise to share, the team of experts at 1106 Design can guide you through the maze.
They've helped more than 1,000 authors create top-quality books and avoid the not-so-reputable self-publishing companies.
Learn more at 1106design.com.
Then call Michelle at 602-866-3226. 1106 Design.
Is there a book in you or another? AuthorU will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join AuthorU today through its website at AuthorU.org. Follow AuthorU on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at AuthorU, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. AuthorU, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
First impressions are everything in the world of book publishing. Whether your book is an ebook, a print version, or both, your book cover needs to pop, sizzle, and sparkle to immediately capture the attention of your audience. And your book's interior needs to be just as dynamic and reflect the professionalism your readers demand. Nick Sellinger of NZ Graphics has won numerous national and international book awards for his cover designs and interior layouts. With over 20 years of experience in graphic design, he knows what it takes to create award-winning books and the many promotional pieces that authors need, such as posters, banners, postcards, one-sheets, business cards, logos, and more. Visit ncgraphics.com and see what authors and publishers have to say about their award-winning books and how NZ Graphics can make your book the success it was meant to be. That's nzgraphics.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Alrighty, so we want to sell a lot of books to a special market, bypass bookstores when we do this. And here's what I love about the specialty markets and when you do these lump sum type of sales is you get paid right away. At least that's been my experience. My guest is Brian Judd, who teaches authors how to deep dive into the specialty sales and the niche for niche marketing and really pull it off. So, Brian, what is your experience on sales and payments?
It's in the non-retail sector. You do get paid in 30 days in most cases.
Yeah.
If the government doesn't pay, the federal government doesn't pay you in 30 days. They don't pay an uncontested invoice in 30 days. They actually have to pay you interest on it. So the corporate, in many cases, that if a company is requesting or purchasing books that are customized, where you put their logo on it or put in a tip-in page or in some way customize it, they'll actually pay in advance. So you can get at least a portion, enough to cover all your printing and customization costs in advance. So that's another benefit of it. But the corporate buyers will pay in 30 days of the invoice. The associations pay that, and so it's in most cases you're correct. The cash flow, and it improves the cash flow for a publisher just by having the money come in 30 days instead of 90 days. Mm-hmm. Non-returnable.
Yeah, which is lovely. Even and it, is there a discount? What kind of? But let's talk about that, Brian. What kind of discount from your retail sale is there a range? Because, for example, when I've done bookstores, book club sales, that's always been a deep discount from the price. I mean, I've never lost money on them, but they come in. A book club comes in and buys 1,000, 1,500 books right off the bat. And pays in 30 days, type of thing.
Well, that's a really good question because the pricing is really different. The perspective of pricing is really different on retailing versus non-retail. Because in retail pricing, it's generally a discount off the retail price. Mm-hmm. And people say, "Well, my books are $14.95, so I'll give a 60% discount and sell it at $5.98." But if you look at in non-retail buying, you have to look at pricing from cost up. Because if you're going against a company may be looking for a premium to give away at a trade show to get people to come into their booth. Mm-hmm. And they may be looking at your book as one of those premiums versus a coffee mug. So you're not competing against other books, you're competing against coffee mugs. And they want to buy 5,000 of them, it's $2.50 each for a coffee mug. So you have to look at what is your printing cost for 5,000 books, and how you might add 50 cents onto that, or something, or some profit amount that will bring you in the range of your competitive item, and that's the way. So if you print 5,000 books for $2 each, and then you add 50 cents onto it, so you make $2,500, and you have a good shot at the sale. But if you're discounting it off the retail, you're looking at $5.98, so you're way out of the ballpark. So the pricing for retail is the percent off list price. We're pricing for the non-retail is markup on cost. So it's really that's a great point to bring that up, because it's a totally different way to look at pricing.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that. And here's I'm going to give a couple little tips here, since you brought up the trade show and the idea of 5,000 books for a premium type thing. I would be reaching out to whoever's that decision maker. It could be the VP of marketing. Sometimes that person's in play here, and that kind of a deal, because they're thinking of what they're going to do. It could be the CEO. You never know. But if someone was going to say, I want a couple of thousand copies of your book, that I would offer to them, would you like to put in a special forward by you or your CEO? Great and point. We have that included in there. And you could actually modify your cover and put their name on the cover, which gives them huge kudos. Now, you could market that saying, if you'd like me to put your name on the cover, that might be an extra $1,000 or something like that. Sure. I would have no shame in asking for that kind of thing.
That's good.
That's huge in putting it out. And then the second little cheat that I would put in, and I actually did this several times in the nursing profession, that I said to one of the groups that they bought 1,000 copies of my book, that they underwrote me as my speech. They actually paid them, the group, as a sponsor for the speech I gave, and I spent all 3 days at one of the conferences in their booth, hauling in traffic like crazy, because they were giving away my book on it.
That's great.
They got more traffic than they ever had. It was a huge home run for them. So
yeah, that's a great example. I did something similar for a local radio show. They were exhibiting at a job fair. Mm-hmm. And I said that if they bought X number of my books, I would go to their booth and just autograph them for people. And they had lines of people coming to their exhibit when others didn't. So that concept, it really works, and you can make money, all non-returnable sales, and put their logo on the cover or something, and it works. That's a good idea.
It's a great way to move on a special edition. That would be a special edition for you there.
And you charge for it too, just as you're saying. So you have to have that chutzpah to ask for that extra $1,000, and in most cases they go along
or more.
With it.
It could be more.
That's right. Depending on the quantity, depending on what they want, or more.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Brian, in our steps, so what should a author do to prepare then for selling to these markets? We started down that path the last break. What kind of steps?
Okay, well, we talked about knowing the buyer. The form is variable, and selling the content instead of the book. But also, you have to look at you're breaking down your market into segments, into opportunities. And I've heard you say this too, that the smaller your niche, the more money you can make. Mm-hmm. So you have to look at the large markets. For example, when I was selling my books to colleges, I divided up my opportunities in colleges, state governments, corporations, international, but even colleges. Then you break that down further. The book can be used as a textbook. It could be used as for selling through bookstores. It could be used by the alumni associations as a fundraiser. And I thought, who else can use the content of my books? And I thought, who wants a college student to get a job more than the college student does? Well, the parents. So I did a direct mail program to the parents of graduating college students and sold tens of thousands of books to them, because they had the desire to get the kids a job and out of the house. Mm-hmm. And they also had the money for it. So it was by breaking down your market into these smaller segments, you really increase your opportunity. So I think that that's a step that a lot of people do not take. They just think about, again, bookstores, online or bricks or clicks, or they think about maybe a gift shop or something. But even gift shops are further segmented, and it could be a hospital, it could be a hotel gift shop, or it could be a Spencer Gift or a Hallmark. So you have to, the more that you can subdivide your opportunity into these more manageable segments, the much more profitable you'll be. So that's a step. Those are probably 4 steps or 5 steps that most people do not take, and they just try to sell their book to whoever wants to buy it, and that's just the wrong way to go about doing it. So those are, I think, the major steps in preparation, Judith.
Okay, so let's say that, I've got all this act together. One of the things that I've never, I have certainly reached out, but I personally have never cracked the military market. You're a big believer in government and military. So why is that? And if we convince our listeners, and maybe I'll look at this again, why is that?
Well, sure.
And is there specific tips on pitching to them?
Yes and yes. I think that it is a great opportunity, and most people do ignore it. I think that, just look at what does the military want? What are the opportunities? And most people think, well, I'll sell to the service people. Well, that's one part of it, but there are the others that for the families of the service people who are moved around every 2 years or with a service person, and the military wants to keep that the whole family happy, because then the service person will re-enlist, and that's what they want. So you have to look at it as this marketplace. So one is through the exchanges, the military exchanges. One is the Army Air Force Exchange Service, AAFES, Army Air Force Exchange Service.com, and they sell on their website or through the exchanges on the basis, and so it's a great way to sell fiction. The Navy Exchange buys a lot of fiction because of the sailors on board ship want to buy a lot of fiction, and so that you have one opportunity through the exchanges. There are a lot of associations that are really good for opportunities. There's the Gold Star Wives Retired Officers Association, as an example, and these will buy books to use for as a premium for membership, or just to resell to the buyers. There are books on abuse, books on how to deal with the death of a family member or a parent or a spouse. So unfortunately, those are books that are needed in the military. So those are opportunities. I sold my job search book, the Job Search 101 book, to the service people who, were moving their careers, their jobs every 2 years, but also to the service person who is getting out of the military in the next number of years and wants to find out how to get a job. And I did a lot of opportunities speaking on the bases, or on the forts, to the family members and to the service people who are looking to get a job. So you have the speaking opportunities, you have retail opportunities, you have a variety of different ways of doing it.
And so you're basically talking that it's unlimited. We're going to come back with more unlimited ideas with Brian Judd.
Sure.
This is Judith Briles, and it's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers. Creating beautiful and well-made books, we're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, specialty sales, selling truckloads, or maybe a few cases at a time anyway, which beats the one at a time book sales. But how do you do it? Brian Judd's with us today, who has been in the specialty sales market for a long, long time. I think, Brian, one of the things that happens is authors may not understand that there is a quasi-cycle to the idea and the presentation till it finally maybe the deal gets consummated. So what happens here if let's say that the military is interested, or Joe Blow Corporation is interested in a premium sale? How fast is that?
It's not fast. You mentioned before somebody may buy a case of books or something, which is better than a single sale, but that's not that could happen on a first sales call or after a few sales calls. But in a corporate marketplace, if you're looking at a larger quantity sale, that can occur over a year, 2 years, 3 years or more. That's something that it's much different from a retail sale, because you start off. You have to build that relationship with people. They're not just going to, you don't call in and say, I've got a great idea to buy 10,000 of my books. What do you think? And that's what some people approach it that way. But you have to do the prospecting to find out the buyers that are appropriate for your content. Then you meet with them, you do your fact-finding. Why do they want to buy your book? Is it to increase their sales? Is it to introduce a new product? Is it to motivate their employees? And then you have to come back with a proposal, and then you present that proposal. And it may be to your initial contact, and the contact says, well, I need to bring my boss in on this, and they bring in purchasing, and they bring in warehousing and operations, and you make various presentations, and then you negotiate the sale, and you work on the shipping times, the delivery, the customization of you just talked about. And then which happens too frequently, is that you get to the point where they're about ready to make a decision, and your decision maker leaves the company, is promoted, or something happens where that person is no longer in the picture, and you back at square one. So it happens not frequently, but often enough that you have to be aware that it happens. And then when these people, they're going to buy 10,000 of your books instead of the coffee mugs if they use the last 5 years. They're making a career decision too. That they're being judged if it's a successful event, that it's good. But so they want to be able to trust you, and they have to trust you with their sales information and their proprietary information that is part of the decision process. So they've got to trust you that that you will maintain that confidentiality too, and that you'll deliver on the proposal. And also when you close the sale, Judith, that's not even the end of the program. You've got to make sure the customization is done. You've got to make sure that their books are delivered on time, perhaps to multiple locations, and then you may have to help them with the implementation of it if that's part of your agreement. So it's a multi-step process, multi-year process, certainly multi-month process, if nothing else, and it just takes a lot longer. And people sometimes authors and publishers get discouraged because it takes so long, and it may be 2 months between the initial presentation and your follow-up presentation. So you've got to be able to keep that fire warm without going overboard, without getting them aggravated. So it's a relationship business. It's a understanding the process and how it works and how you can deal with them, and how it's so different that people get frustrated because it takes so long. But that's the nature of the beast, that it takes months or years to consummate.
It is the nature of the beast, I think, in a lot of ways. And as a disclosure, how I started my publishing company, Mile High Press, was from a specialty sale where I had an engagement where I was speaking in the Seattle area, and they called me and they said, "Hey, we're thinking of giving your book on the topic I was speaking on to some of our customers." And I'm thinking, okay. In fact, I had just taken back the rights of the book, and there were only 60 left, and I bought them all. And I thought, sure, I can supply 60 books. I can take care of that. And I said, well, they literally asked me, could you talk to the publisher to see if they would give us a discount? And I'm thinking, yeah, I can give you a discount. And so, and so when I about fell off the chair, she says, well, okay, great. So find out what the discount would be for 1,000 copies. And I'm going, yay. Because I'd never had anyone order that many books before. And so here I am now, the owner. I've taken about the rights of the book. The book really should be rewritten, and I only have 60 copies. So I had a discussion with a plant in my office, and we decided that we were going to take this on, and yes, we could do this. And I made that decision within 15 seconds. So I committed to doing it, and then I had to leap in, Brian, and really learn the backside of publishing now. And the only mistake I made was in the printing side, because I didn't have the connections I have with printers that I do now. And I didn't know who the major players were, and that the person I had printing, because this was all had to be done within a 3-month period. I had to do the rewrites. I had to find a cover designer. I had to lay out the whole book again. But I was able to negotiate enough money that I actually was able to pay for 2,000 copies. Yeah. And so I gave them 1,000. And I seeded Mile High Press with the other 1,000, and that was that.
Great. And that's really another great point you brought up, that you have a relationship with a printer. Because before you go into that sales call, that presentation, you need to know the cost of printing at various quantities. Because if the buyer says, I want to buy 10,000 of your books for $2 each, can you ship those to me in 6 weeks? And if you can, I'll give you the order now. Then if you'd have that information, or I've even asked a printer to be available for a phone call at a particular time. I know I had a 10 o'clock in the morning appointment with somebody. Said, would you be open for a call between 10 and 11? And I've called them right there. I said, what's the cost to print and ship this many books to this location? I got immediately got the information. So, one, you want to prepare before you go on the call, or two, have that relationship with your printer that you can give them that call and get that information and close the sale. Because if you have to come back in a week, then the buyer has cooled off and may even have forgotten what you're talking about. So, if you can close the sale on the spot, you're much more likely to get it with that information.
Mm-hmm. And here's the other thing: if your price is low enough, when you started talking about thinking, okay, so we're talking about, do they buy another round of pens they give to their customers, or whatever the newest gizmo gadget, the toolkit, or the coffee mug, or the bag, or the jacket, or whatever it is.
Or whatever. Yeah, that's
exactly.
Right.
That's what you're competing with. So that's why you're not going to make a huge amount of money, but you can make money. And the thing is, you're positioning. You are positioning your brand. You're positioning yourself as the author. You're positioning your book. Yeah. And that's what really this is all about, and moving it in there, and it does work. I'm telling you, but you have to have patience. It's persistence and patience in this area. Brian, if I was to think, when authors, they want to see their books in a bookstore, although they don't realize it's their responsibility to drive buyers there. Somehow they think they just magically show up. This is expensive real estate if you get into a bookstore. And if your books don't sell in a couple of weeks, guess what? They return them. All listeners, please understand that. They're not going to keep your books for perpetuity. They want something that's going to sell and bring cash into the store.
Well, that's a major decision factor. That they're looking for store traffic, they're looking for profit per square foot, inventory turns, and if your book won't give them that, if your product won't give them that, they'll go to something else.
Exactly. So that's really critical to understand that. The second one thinks, it's stores. Now we're going to talk about retail. I know more authors, if I field a question that's consistently week after week after week, how do I get into bookstores in the airports? And that has evolved a little bit and changed. So, Brian, talk about that.
Sure. Airport stores they have the chain airport stores, the Hudsons and so forth, Paradise, and but they also have other airport bookstores that are. There's one in the Hartford airport. It's called Cover to Cover, and they have their books are on the front or front displays are more about lobster bakes and the tourist events in New England. So the idea is that you have to understand a couple of things about airport stores. One, the fact that who's the customer of an airport store. It's going to be a business person, or it's going to be perhaps a family flying on a vacation, or those are the primary audiences. So what topics would be appropriate for these people? And those, if your topic is not appropriate for those people, they're not going to buy it. And if they do take it on, they have what's called the pay-to-play, where you have to pay to have your books on display, face out, or even on the shelf, and put it on display. And they may be $3,000-$4,000 a month for something like that to occur. So, which it might be a good buy, it might be a good deal for you if you're doing a lot of promotion for your book. But I think, Judith, there's another opportunity for airports of non-bookstore airport stores. I was in the Louisville airport a couple of weeks ago, and there was a Louisville Slugger store there. There was a PGA golf shop there. So if you have books on golf or on baseball, then go to these places, and you're much more likely to get in. It's non-competitive because they have either none or fewer books on baseball there, and it's just you don't have the pay to play. So if you go to the airport website, you can find these other stores that are on the concourses and contact those people. And in many cases, they use the same distributors. You can go through Hudson, you can go through Ingram or Baker & Taylor also to get to these places. But the idea is that you're in the airport, but not in the competitive market of an airport bookstore. And you can tell them you'll do an event there. You'll do a book signing at the Louisville Slugger shop at the airport. So if you can look at it that way, it can be a lucrative opportunity, and you can sell a lot of books in retail. But anything retail, you have to know the customer of your customer and make sure your content is right.
All right, so we're going to find out how to slug it out some more, because I do have some questions about the airport stores. And people do understand it is a pay-to-play in many, many cases, and it could be way out of the ballpark for you. This is Judith Briles, AuthorU-Your guide to book publishing. We're talking how to sell your book. Lots.
Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems, you want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today. 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207. Or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, I have to share with you before we leave, I started my How to Write a Book in 4 Weeks, and we just completed the first 4-week segment. Wow, what great returns we had. I keep it small, that I don't really want much more than 15 students in it, and I let 17 creep in. We had. What a great turnout. I mean, multiple first drafts were completed. We have a little, trickling on, which happens, but huge turnout. We just started the online course this month, and we had our first session on Tuesday of this week, and fun of doing a 3-hour program totally online together. And yes, we did give them a health break during that time, but really go through and plow through, and high interaction. So if you're interested and you want to write a nonfiction book in 4 weeks, you need to go to thebookshepherd.com, click on events, and get all the details of the next one. With me is Brian Judd, and we're talking about specialty sales, and we were diving down, and I wanted to come back. I don't want to leave the airports right away, because if you think you're going to jump in and get in and play in this field, it's highly competitive, and the odds are not hugely in your favor. It doesn't mean you can't do it. So, Brian, talk to that a little bit.
Sure. The Hudson, Parodies are the major players. They have the stores in multiple airports, and so I think that their criteria are, is it appropriate, the content appropriate for their customers, but two, is it, they'll automatically reject this, what they call a self-published book. So you need to be able to convince them your book is not self-published. If you have, as I did, I created my own publishing company and said that they were my publisher, and so I wasn't a self-published author. But if it's a POD book, then it will not be accepted. So you have to understand their criteria for accepting a book. That it's a business decision. It's based on their audience, and it's based on the perceived quality of the publishing company. So those are the primary criteria that they use for it. So you have to meet that. And that's something for almost any non-bookstore retailer. They're looking for that quality of product, and whether it's a supermarket, a gift shop, a discount store, they're looking for returnables. The books have to be returnable. So these are you have to understand the buying criteria, because if you don't, you'll be rejected, and you'll wonder why.
Yeah, one of the things is very important because a lot of authors who are venturing down to become do the DIY or they want to publish themselves, they think of themselves as self-publishing. You need to move in to think you're an indie publisher. You're a small press. And that the criteria, I would say some verbiage like this. You need to say, I chose not to publish with McGraw-Hill and Wiley. I mean, throw out a name, for heaven's sakes. And I selected a small press, or I'm honored to work with a small press who really specializes in books of my nature. Just because you own the company doesn't mean you have to reveal it, okay?
Exactly
but
right.
it's important for you to make your small press sound like it's a small press. If your name is Samantha Smith, please don't put Samantha Smith LLC. Okay,
I agree.
Or Smith Publishing, Kiss of Death. You've got to come up with, some names that look like it, whether you combine, the middle names of your kids. That might do it. Maybe you name it after your cat, Fluffy. Got kids. Who knows? But what you've got to do is make it sound like it is a legit company.
Right.
All right. So doing that. Okay?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, very important. All right, so a couple of other things we want to do. What about selling to associations? Is this a good market?
It's a great opportunity, Judith, but for a variety of reasons. One, that there are ways of getting into it. One is what they call cause marketing, where you can align yourself, if your topic is aligned with their cause, that you can get the cooperative marketing, where they may allow you to use their logo on your cover or on your material or on your website, or may have a reciprocal link that can really help your sales. But you have to think about it that they may run with your idea too. Some of the larger associations have had that problem with it, but that's. Smaller associations generally they'll work with you. But there are other opportunities. One that if you go to a website like Weddles.com, WEDDLES.com/associations, and it lists every association in the world actually, and you sort those by your topic. You have hot links to the association, and then you see a click on that, and you look. One, do they have a bookstore on their website? Many will. Two, do they have a local chapter? And you can go there and be a speaker there or sell books there or learn about the association. Then go to and these people are listed there with their email address, their phone number, and information about them. So it's a real good prospect list. But then go to the membership chair. That person's objective is to increase membership. Yeah. So if your content is appropriate to their members, they may buy your book in large quantity to use as a premium, as a thank you. You renew your membership or you join, here's a free copy of this book. And then what we'll also do is go to the newsletter editor. And that person's job is to send out a monthly or quarterly, whatever frequency newsletter, and they're always looking for good content. So if you allow them to excerpt from your book, and they get content, and they're probably not going to pay you, but what we do is barter that for advertising. So month 1, you might get a review of your book. Month 2, an article or excerpt from you. Month 3 would be your ad. Month 4 could be you might write an article for them. So that's another opportunity. Then while you're there, contact the meeting planner. Do they have an event coming up where they could use your book as a premium for an early bird special? People sign up for 2 months before the actual event. They get a free copy of your book. Or if you're a speaker there, maybe they'll buy a book for everybody in the audience in advance, or allow you to sell in the back of the room. I know I think, have the record of selling 15,000 books or something in a couple hours after the back of the room.
16,000, thank you very much. 560 copies.
I know you still have the record for that, but that's a great opportunity. So you have that. This is at one association. You have all these different entry points and opportunities, and then you go to the next association and do the same thing. And you might have 100 of them that are in your area of expertise. So associations, Judith, can be a great opportunity for book sales or for speaking events, or they may use your book as a fundraiser And they may have you come in and speak, do an event at their annual conference. And so there are so many opportunities at associations that most people don't even think about. And if there's such a variety of associations, it's hard not to find one that would be appropriate for your content.
You know, I used to speak, the last 20 years of my speaking when I was out really on the road all the time. I really dedicated to the healthcare communities. Yeah. And that I always had a policy that 10% of my book sales that were on site, I gave back to the organization. And I never pitched from the platform. I never did, because the announcer, when they took back the mic after I was done presenting, she says, make sure you go see Judith. You know, she will be donating to, a percentage of her book sales back to our scholarship fund. Oh my God, it was fabulous. So there's things you can do. Give us the website, the Weddle website one more time.
It's weddles.com/associations. You have to make sure you get that /associations in there, and you can sort by industry, and it's a great source of a free source of all these contacts for each association.
Mm-hmm. All right, perfect. All right, so we only have a couple minutes left. I want to let everyone know, if you're in the Los Angeles, the Southern California area, September 12th, Brian is going to be there with an all-day program. So, Brian, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. We'll cover a lot of what we talked about today, but much more in-depth and specifically for your particular topic. We're looking at having a smaller crowd there so we can really work with the individuals to give them, when they leave, they'll have examples of potential prospects and how to sell to those people, why they would want to buy them, how to give a presentation, how to negotiate sales. We have a segment. My business partner and I will be out there a full day doing all this, and he's a real expert on that the creative selling to these buyers. So it's a day of high content day where the people will find the information about how to sell their books to non-bookstore buyers, and that's September 12th at the Skirball Center on Sepulveda Boulevard in Los Angeles, and it's we still have some spots open for it.
Well, I was born in Los Angeles, so I actually know where Sepulveda is.
Oh,
all right, so highly recommended, and Brian and I have worked together for a long time. I don't have the pleasure of speaking at this one, but you do get Brian, and you want to, specialty sales is the way to move books. I'm telling you, once you grasp this idea and you learn to drill down in the area, it makes a huge difference. And even though I can tell you, I'm not going, I'm not in 12 different states in a month the way I used to be in speaking. I still have people reach out, and we just closed something where we're delivering 1,000 copies of my books to a local hospital that they're going to be giving to their staff.
That's great.
And that's cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, you never know. You never know where these things are going to come from. All right, Brian, we have like 1 minute to go. Maybe I can give you 30 seconds. So how do they get a hold of you?
The easiest one would be Brian Judd at bookmarketing.com. And Judd is with one D. Brian, J-U-D, at bookmarketing.com.
Okay, so questions, if you want to get involved, I'm going to recommend that everyone get a copy of How to Make Real Money Selling Books. You'll bookmark it. It's not going to help you. It's not the leisurely reading. This is work reading, but it belongs in your personal library. So with that, thanks, Brian, for being with me once again.
My pleasure. Thank you, Judith.
You're welcome. Happy publishing and writing to everyone. We'll be with you next week. We're talking websites.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each